بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. Inshallah, like the MC has said, this is a very important topic for students and for people who are not students, for professionals as well. And yes, Ramadan is coming. Yes, we have exams coming. So inshallah this will help with that. However, please listen to this content with the mindset that this can be applied to any part of life. This is something that you can carry on throughout your life. And inshallah, hopefully it will be useful for you. So I do want to make this as practical as possible. So please have questions. Right? Have questions for me about how this can apply to you specifically. So you all have notes in front of you. I will go through the theory of things fairly quickly so that we can get into practical Q&A. Okay, inshallah. So you may ask your question by raising your hand. Throughout the seminar, you can do that. But at the end as well, we'll have a special time for Q&A. So raise your hand, or if you are shy to do that, write your question on a piece of paper, send it forward, and that's also okay. So, I didn't get your name. Ilyas. As Ilyas said, time is finite. And it's a precious gift that we have. And most of us struggle to use our time effectively. And as we grow through life and we experience more and more challenges, this becomes more and more daunting. So don't think that because you're a student, because you're young, that it's only you that is struggling with time management. Right? There are people twice your age and thrice your age who are struggling with the same thing. Okay? So it's very difficult, and there are some people that will get this right, and they achieve a lot in a day, in a week, in a month, but they have the same 24 hours that we have. Right? Time is a standard, so no one has more time than the other. However, people use their time differently, and it's very easy to waste time. No one has an intention to waste time, but it's very, very easy to get into that habit. And if we don't have discipline and we don't have some boundaries, then a lot of our time gets wasted. And when time is wasted, we don't achieve what we know we can and should achieve, and that results in regret. Right. So raise your hand if you've ever had regret about wasting time. Yeah? Everyone. Right? If you didn't raise your hand, maybe you didn't understand the question. Right? So people often say, I don't have time, or there's not enough hours in the day, or I have too much to do. Right? You've heard that, or you've said that before, right? But it's actually not true. It's actually a case of simply not managing your time well or managing yourself well. Right? So inshallah, I will be sharing with you some ideas of how to get over this hurdle. Because of the time of this seminar, we only have a short time. I can only discuss with you one methodology in detail. There are some other methodologies I'll mention in brief, but because of time I won't be able to go into all of them in enough detail. So that's extra homework for you to go and research. So my work has been trying to understand the Islamic paradigm of things, and then to study psychology and human behavior and see where they meet. Where's the nexus? So my heart is very close to Madina Institute. Sheikh Muhammad Dinawi is one of my personal teachers, and in these seminars I've sat where you've sat, and there is a great need for us to study the Islamic sciences, but also a lot of people don't cope well with their studies. So I've been lecturing at Madina for quite a while, trying to assist students to improve themselves while they're studying, right? And I know there are people here that are not from Madina. I believe there are some high school students here. So this is important for all types of knowledge, all types of study. On page 3 of your notes, there is some recommended reading. And recommended reading is sort of nice to read on the page, but actually you have to go and buy the books. And you have to actually have to read the books from cover to cover. That is the recommendation. The recommendation is not to look at the nice titles, but it's actually to use these books. The 5 I've listed are very, very good books. The first one, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey, is where we're going to use the methodology that we're going to teach today. Right? It comes from that book. And so if you want more information about the methodology, I highly suggest getting that book, at least that one. Okay, so it's very rare that you will sit in a course and there will be an exercise before anything is being taught. But this is the case today. So on page 4, we'll start with an exercise. And inshallah, at the end of the seminar, we'll come back to this exercise. Right? So please be quick. I want you to answer 5 questions. And these 5 questions will form a basis of the methodology we'll be teaching later on, inshallah. Before I do go ahead with this exercise, are there any questions at this stage? No, okay. So, like I said earlier, I just want to remind you, please think of your own situation and where you are struggling so that you can ask me practical, personal questions that, inshallah, we can try and address. And very often the case is that one person asks a question, but 10 other people have the same question, so inshallah everyone benefits. So the first question is, write down two occasions when your schedule for the day was disrupted due to a family or other emergency. Right? So you have it's a normal day, you have some things that you plan to do, and then it gets disrupted by an emergency, family emergency or other type of emergency. Right? So write down 2 occasions where this happened recently that you can remember. So you don't need to write long sentences, just very, very briefly make a note of what occasion you're thinking about. This is important. While you're writing, let me just stress this fact. This is important. This is the boring work, to fill out answers. Right? As a coach, I give clients assignments, and they come to the coaching sessions every week, but they fail to do the assignments. Why? Because that's boring work. Right? But the boring work is where the fruits are. So in anything that you're doing, when it comes to exercises and assignments, make sure to do them because there's always a purpose behind them. Okay, so 1B is write down 2 occasions when you frantically had to rush to complete something which you had time to do before. So you had time, like cramming for an exam the night before when you had a month to study. Right? So write down 2 occasions where this happened. Where you had something to do which was important, and you had enough time to do it, but you delayed and you procrastinated, and then at the last minute you have to cram. Right? So again, in brief, you don't need to write the whole long story because we know what it's about, just reference the occasion. 2 on page 5. And this one, you can circle the number 2. This one is very important. The most important of all of them. Okay? Write down 2 things in your life which you are currently not doing or not doing well. Right? 2 things which you are not doing or not doing well, which you know will improve your life dramatically if you are consistent in them. Right? So we all know of things that we should do, that we know we can do, and that we know that will improve our lives, but yet we don't do them. Okay, number 3, write down 2 ways in which you consistently allow disturbances and interruptions to distract you from your highest priorities. Right? You might have to think a little bit about this one. Write down 2 ways in which you consistently allow disturbances and interruptions to distract you from your highest priorities. And about priorities, as a side note, always remember that your priorities are not other people's priorities. Very important to remember. It's a very important principle. The last one, which is mark 3, but it should be 4. The easiest of the lot. Write down 2 ways in which you waste time daily. That should be very easy for everyone.
What is the difference to the prior question?
The difference between 3 and 4?
Yes.
Okay. So number 3, I'll read it and I'll explain it. Write down 2 ways in which you consistently allow disturbances and interruptions to distract you from your highest priorities. So, you have a high priority, you have something to do, right? But you allow disturbances to distract you from doing that thing, right? And number 4 is when you waste time. So you're not being disturbed, you're just wasting time. Like you're scrolling Instagram for 2 hours. Alright? That's number 4. Number 3 is when you have something to do, but you allow others to disturb you and distract you and interrupt you. So at the end of the day, you didn't get anything done. Right? So these questions are designed at this stage just to prod your mind and to let you think about your life and what you do. And when we go into the methodology, inshallah, it will become clear what all this means and where they fit in and what we need to fix and what we need to change. Right? But your answers will be very, very telling once we've done the methodology. That's why the questions are first. Right? Okay. So the exercise is done. Inshallah, we'll start with the Islamic paradigm of time on page 6. So, in Islam, we believe in the physical dimension as well as the spiritual dimension. Okay, so yes, in the physical dimension, time is a constant. The second ticks away without fail. However, we believe in the spiritual dimension of barakah, blessings. So, many of our teachers consistently make dua that Allah places barakah in our time. So the same time we can do more in. That is the spiritual dimension. In the same manner, when we give sadaqah, we don't believe that our wealth decreases. We actually believe it increases. This is not in the physical dimension. This is the spiritual dimension. Right? So this is an important note about how Muslims think differently regarding time. Because we don't only see the physical dimension. So, for example, we have, if you watch any type of series or documentary on medical science, they are scientists. So they only believe in the science. They only believe in the physical dimension. We believe that dua can change the reality of a sick person. Right? That is the spiritual dimension. So in Islam we have both. And we know that the spiritual dimension is more powerful than the physical dimension, although we reside in the physical dimension. Right? That's why the prophets, when they performed miracles, they were called mu'jiza. Right? When the awliya perform miracles, they're called karama. Right? Because they are things that are not normally in occurrence in the physical reality. Right? Because it's a manifestation of the power of the spiritual dimension. Right? So that's very important to understand. In Surah Al-Asr, Allah swears by time, and I'd like someone to please read the surah. Ibrahim, big name. MashaAllah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
So, you all know the surah. It's a very short surah. And a brief English translation I'll read to you. By time, indeed mankind is in loss, except those who believe and do righteous deeds, and except those who advise each other to truth and patience. Now, before we go on, an important note that we should not be satisfied with English translations of the Quran, right? Because they are often subtle mistakes, because it's very difficult to translate all Arabic words into English, especially keywords like taqwa and iman, etc. Now, for example, the verse in my research for doing this, writing up these notes, the verse where Allah commands us to fast, what's the end of the verse? Surah Baqarah, verse 183. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. What's the end of the verse? What's the purpose of fasting? Tattaqun, right? Taqwa. But the English translation I found online says righteousness. That's not taqwa. Righteousness is not taqwa. It's linked to taqwa, but it's not. So I made a note there in your notes. Be careful of this and read classical tafsir of the Quran and also contemporary tafsir. And we have YouTube. Like I found on Surah Al-Asr, I found like 7 hours of lectures from one scholar on this surah. Right? So there are enough if we are serious about the Quran. Right? If we are serious about our research. So I mentioned earlier that my passion is finding the nexus between Islamic tradition and Western psychology and human behavior, etc. And there's a book written by Dr. John F. DeMartini called Count Your Blessings. Right? I read the book, and he's one of my mentors in my leadership work. And I met with him and I said to him, look, your book is I didn't use the word tafsir, but I said it's an explanation of the verse in the Quran where Allah says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you thank Allah, He'll give you more. And his response to me, he is not Muslim. His response to me was, I've read the Quran in English from cover to cover 13 times. Right? So, people are serious about their studies and their research. And I think Muslims, we need to become more serious. Right? We have this attitude, I don't like to use the word attitude, but this mindset that we have everything and we rely on barakah. No, we have to do the work. Right? The barakah is there, yes. we have a great blessing of being Muslim, yes, but we have to do the work as well, right? Serious work. So that's my advice to students. Be the best student. So if you're sitting in a class, in any class, if you're not the best student, then you have to work to be the best student. And you go to the next class, you have to work to be the best student there. Why? Because it's a display of your appreciation to Allah for the mind He gave you. Yeah? Okay. So, Surah Al-Asr refers to time running out, right? And it is one of the few occasions in the Quran where Allah swears by something, right? Wash-Shams, another place. Allah swears in the Quran, right? He takes an oath. So, time is very limited, and this surah is referring to that. And it first says mankind is in loss before it says who's not in loss, right? So negation first and then affirmation. So la ilaha illallah first, la ilaha first and then illallah, affirmation after, right? So pay attention to these subtleties. Yeah. So mankind is addressed in the surah. Mankind will be lost, illa, except those who believe. But interestingly, belief is not enough. Amanu wa amalu salihat, belief and good deeds. So multiple places in the Quran where you'll see these together. Amanu wa amalu salihat. Right? And then there's an element of your responsibility within the community, right? Those who advise others to truth. So you not only want to save yourself, but you have to have concern for your fellow brothers and sisters as well. So there's a very popular hadith, and scholars often quote, Ad-Dinu Nasiha, right? This deen is sincere concern for others. And then advise each other to patience. Why? Because it's difficult. The path and the journey is difficult. It's not easy. Right? So this shows us that time is very central in Islam. It's something that we should value, and it's something that is held in high regard. Right? And the blessed companions, radiallahu anhum, when they met, before leaving, they would recite the surah to each other. Right? And you might have seen this, I've witnessed it many times. You'll see people before they end a meeting, for example, where they recite the surah and then they end the meeting. Right? And Imam Shafi said that if people contemplated the surah, it would encompass everything for them. Right? He also said that if only one surah was revealed, and it was this surah, it would be enough for humanity. Right? So some prophetic perspectives on time, right? So this is foundational, right? So we can understand how important time is to us as Muslims, and then inshallah we'll get on to the methodology after this. The Prophet ﷺ said, take advantage of 5 things before 5 things, your youth before you become old, right? Which also pertains to time, right? Your health before you fall sick also pertains to time, right? Because you have a limited time that you're healthy. You will get sick, you will get old. Your wealth before you become poor, and your free time before you become preoccupied, and your life before your death, right? Now, your free time before you become preoccupied is something we have to take note of, because we often have free time, and then things are thrust upon us. We become preoccupied with things. We have to do certain things. A family member becomes ill, for example, and we have to spend lots of time looking after them. Or, we have to all of a sudden travel long distances for work or studies, which we didn't have to before. Now time is taken by commuting, etc. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh Allah, bless my nation in the early mornings," and he would not not quoted here, but the Prophet would not allow the companions to sleep after Fajr, right? Until the sun had risen. Because this is, number one, the early morning time is how you start your day, is how your day will continue. That's number one. Number two, there's barakah in the morning, right? So, when we spend time with our shuyukh, I've never seen a sheikh sleep after Fajr until the sun had risen, right? So this is the spiritual dimension. So, I stand corrected, but I think this is accurate to what I've heard, that Imam Bukhari, before writing a hadith, he would take wudu, right? This is the spiritual dimension. So it's very important to understand this. Don't only look at the physical dimension when you're studying, whenever you're doing anything, and when you want to manage your time well, you have to understand the spiritual dimension, because it has a big impact. Yeah. And then Sayyidah Aisha said that the Prophet ﷺ used to work for his family, and when he heard the adhan, he would go out, right? So he would give everything its priority. One of the scholars was asked, what is the definition of wisdom? And he said, to give everything its due, right? So you have to segment your day. There are different things and different responsibilities which you have to fulfill, and you have to be able to switch from one thing to the next. You have to be able to switch, right? You cannot sort of indulge in any one activity, because then it will negatively affect the other activities that you have responsibility for. Scholarly perspectives of time, I'm going to skip the first two. I'm going to skip reading it because of time, but you should read it on your own. But I want to read Imam Ghazali's statement on time. So it's a bit lengthy, so I want to focus on this one. Your time should not be without any structure, such that you occupy yourself arbitrarily with whatever comes along, right? And later we'll quote someone who's not Muslim who says the same thing, right? So you have to have structure. You have to know what you're going to do in a day. You can't just, be whimsical about it. Rather, you must take account of yourself and order your worship during the day and night, assigning to each period of time an activity that must not be neglected nor replaced by another activity. And he uses the word worship, and worship is a broad word. A lot of people see the word worship, they think of the prayer. But everything that is pleasing to Allah is worship, right? If you go out to seek knowledge, that's an act of worship. Right? If you go out to work for your family, that's an act of worship. Right? So any priority that is good, that is pleasing to Allah, should be accounted for in the way He describes. By this ordering of time, the blessing in time will show itself. Right? So what he's saying is, you'll find barakah in your time if you have structure. Yeah? It's one of the secrets of time, right? From an Islamic perspective. A person who leaves himself without a plan, as animals do, not knowing what he is to do at any given moment, will spend most of his time fruitlessly. Now, you and I know many of us live like this. Yes? No structure, and we're just going about our day aimlessly. Right? Many of us know that. Many people do that, not only animals. Your time is your life, and your life is your capital. By it you make your trade, and by it you will reach the eternal bounties in the proximity of Allah. Every single breath of yours is a priceless jewel, because it is irreplaceable. Once it is gone, there is no return for it. Right? So, there's a saying, how can you do tomorrow what you put off today? Because when are you going to do what you need to do tomorrow? Right? So every moment, see it as precious, because when the second is gone, when the hour is gone, it's gone. Right? It's irreplaceable. So do not be like fools who rejoice each day as their wealth increases while their lives decrease. What good is there in wealth that increases while one's lifespan decreases? Do not rejoice except in an increase of knowledge or an increase of good works. Truly, they are your true friends who will accompany you in your grave, when your spouse, your wealth, your children, and your friends will remain behind. Right? So this is a good statement to reflect on often. Right? So the Quran is a dhikr, yes, as the Quran states. The Quran is a reminder. Reminders are good for believers. So we have to keep reminding ourselves. And this applies to anything that you learn. Reading something once is never ever enough. It has never ever been enough for anyone. You have to keep reminding yourself. You have to keep refreshing knowledge. Yeah. So inshallah we'll go to page 10. Now we'll talk about time management. So the Islamic paradigm of time is our foundation, right? And you always start with a good foundation. The foundation is solid, and then whatever you build on there will inshallah be solid. So the first fundamental is that time cannot technically be managed. Right? So you can manage money, for example. Right? You can spend less, or you can spend more, or you can do things. Not with time, because time will move whatever you do or don't do. Right? So the essence is that we need to manage ourselves. Right? When we manage ourselves, then we end up managing our time better. Right? That's important. That which is abundant is not appreciated, and that which is scarce is valued. Right? This is general in anything in life. If there's an abundance of something, then it's appreciated less. If something is scarce, it's appreciated more. Like when we had the water crisis, water was scarce, so now people appreciated water more. Yeah? But now there's no more water crisis, now we're back to wasting water. Yeah? That's the human condition. Now, the challenge with time is that it seems abundant. It seems abundant. That's why we do not appreciate it. But actually, it's a very scarce resource. As what the philosopher says, time is running out. And because it's a scarce resource, that's the reason why we should value it. But we often don't see time as scarce. We often see it as abundant, and we think we're going to live forever, etc. Right? Time should be seen as a responsibility, because we will all be questioned about how we used our time. Yeah? If we are not disciplined in the use of our time, we will squander it, and we will ultimately end up with regret. Right? And I mentioned regret earlier, which is a big factor. Yeah? Because the time is gone, and now you think, oh, I should have done that, I could have done that. Right? And now you end up with regret. And the regret eats you up inside. While taking action in the time that is current, we also have to be planning for the time ahead. Right? So, because time moves at a consistent pace, we always have to know what we're going to be doing next. Yeah? So like for the seminar, there's a schedule. We have a session and then a break and then another session and a break. So while we in a session, we know what's coming next. The break is coming next. Right? And then during the break, we know, okay, we're in a break now, but the next session is coming up. And in a similar way, you have to know what you're going to be doing with your life. Right? So if you need a break and you need to watch some TV, that's okay. Right? But you have to know how long you're going to watch the TV, right? And you have to know what you're going to do afterwards. Many of us don't though. Right? Who watches Netflix? Right? Many of us, right? I'm sure even those who didn't raise their hands, I'm sure you watch Netflix as well. And we sit there aimlessly, right? And we have no plan of when are we going to stop. We're just enjoying it, and it goes to the next episode and the next episode. Yeah? That's the problem. Right? So while we're doing that, it's entertainment, we're enjoying it, but we end up in regret always afterwards. Yeah? So that's where the discipline is required. Okay, so inshallah we'll start with quadrant theory. Page 11 of your notes. So this is a methodology, right? A methodology is a system of doing things that will help you achieve a particular outcome. And it's a very effective methodology, that's why I recommend it. And it is explained, as I mentioned earlier, in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. By the way, who has read this book already? The teenage one, okay, good. So you're not a teenager anymore. So inshallah, so the teenage, there's a family one as well, but the original book is the best one, right? It has the most value. So, you know, I asked this question in many seminars, if people have read this book. Sometimes people will raise their hand, yes, they've read it. And then I'll ask, have you read it from cover to cover? No. And there are 7 habits listed in the book. So if someone has read it, I ask them, please list the 7 habits. They can't, right? No one has ever been able to list them accurately. So the point of that is that, what I said earlier, you have to be very serious in your knowledge. Yeah. So one way that you can identify a scholar who is slightly above, you know, cut above the rest, is when he quotes poetry. Yeah. So he's memorized the Quran as the other scholars. He's memorized the Hadith as the other scholars. And then he starts poetry from everywhere. Right? That's my little identifier of someone who's just a bit cut above the rest. Because it's difficult to memorize. Yeah? But it shows seriousness and dedication and commitment. So if you've read something, as I've said earlier, make sure you refresh and internalize. Right? Because otherwise it's useless. Okay. So this quadrant theory is a methodology we can apply to every moment of our lives and every activity that we do in our lives. So whether we're drinking a cup of coffee, or sitting in a seminar, or watching Netflix, or sitting in a class at Madina Institute, doesn't matter what we're doing. It fits into one of these 4 quadrants. Okay? So you have a diagram there. So quadrant 1 is at the top left, page 11, for those who are looking for it. At the top left you have quadrant 1. Those are things that are urgent and important. Right? So in this methodology, Dr. Covey separated and categorized things under importance and urgency. Right? So quadrant 1 is things that are both urgent and important. Quadrant 2 are things that are not urgent, but they are important. Right? Quadrant 3 are things that are urgent, but not important. And quadrant 4 are things that are not urgent and not important. Right. So, if you're a bit confused at this stage, that's okay. Inshallah, it will become clearer. So every action in our lives can be placed in one of these 4 quadrants. When we are not aware of these quadrants, we are prone to wasting time. You see, when you're not sure what quadrant you're in, you're just happily going along and you don't have a consciousness. So this methodology brings about a consciousness. So every moment of every day you can ask yourself, what quadrant am I in now? And should I be in this quadrant or not? Right? So you can evaluate yourself. Right? Using this matrix effectively and consciously will dramatically improve how we manage every minute of every day. All right. Now, quadrant 1, so I'm going to read from page 12, but try and look at the quadrant on page 11. Look at the diagram, because I need you to visualize this. All right? You need to focus on the blocks, so you know where things fit. Okay? So quadrant 1 are things that are urgent and important, right? Number 1, they're urgent. They have to be done now. Number 2, they're important. So they have to be done. They're important. Now, this is twofold. This quadrant is twofold. The first segment of this quadrant are things that are imposed on us externally. What's an example of that? You're at school or you're at work and you get an urgent phone call, a family member is sick. Right? Is it important? Yes. Is it urgent? Yes. So now you have to disrupt your day. Right? This is a crisis. So you have to disrupt your day and boom, you have to go off and go and attend to whoever is sick, whoever needs your help. Right? But did you plan this? No. It's externally influenced. Right? So you wake up in the morning, so you're all kids. Anyone married here? You married? Yes. So few people are married. So this is more for the married folk. You go to bed one night and you have your whole schedule for the next day. You're going to wake up at this time and you're going to have breakfast and you're going to do this and that and then you're going to go to work and then you wake up and then you see your house is flooded because the geyser burst. Yeah? May Allah protect us from that. I never experienced it, alhamdulillah, but I've heard, stories of people. That's a crisis. Yeah? So now you're going to call your boss, I'm coming in late today, or I'm not coming in today. Yeah? Crisis. Urgent? Yes. Important? Yes. Did you cause it? No. Externally influenced. Because these things happen. You can't control everything. So that's the first segment of quadrant 1. Things that are externally imposed on you. Okay? But you have to attend to them because they are crises. The second segment of quadrant 1 are things that are self-imposed. Right? So you have a month to study for your exam. Right? The lecturer gives you a date of your exam and it's a month in advance. And you procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate and you don't study and you waste time and you're on Instagram and you're watching Netflix. And then the night before your exam, you realize you haven't studied. And now you need to sit the whole night. You go and buy 10 Red Bulls, right? And now you put your phone off because you don't want anyone to disturb you or distract you. And you say, I'm going to study now the whole night. Because it's urgent that I study because otherwise I'm going to fail. And it's important that I do it because I haven't done it for the last month. This is a crisis. Right? Is this externally imposed? No. It's self-imposed. But it's a crisis. That's quadrant 1. Yeah? So, quadrant 1, the externally imposed things of quadrant 1 we have no control over. Right? So we cannot change anything about that. All we do is make dua that Allah helps us through crises that are imposed on us. Yeah? That we are able to deal with them. What we should make sure, however, is that we do not have any self-imposed crises in our life. Because that we can avoid. Right? Because we have to manage our time. We only have 24 hours in the day. Right? So quadrant 1 is what we have to manage. So we want to spend the least amount of time in a week in quadrant 1. Who has ever monitored and tracked their time? Yes, you have? Would you like to share? No. No problem.
What do you mean by monitoring?
Do you know, for example, any given week in your life, how much time you slept in that week? Or how much time you drove? So driving, I used to fill out forms. Whenever I get in the car, I fill out the form, right? I'm leaving this time, and when I arrive at the place, I write it down, but it's a pain, right? It's difficult. So I found an app. I found an app called Mile IQ, right? And it does it automatically. So the GPS, whatever, can pick up that you're driving, and then it calculates how long you've driven, etc., right? So there's an app for most things these days. So I highly recommend monitoring your time, right? It's the same like having a budget. Who has a budget? I see smiles and laughter. Now when people laugh, just as a side note, when someone laughs, it's for one of two reasons. Either, number one, something is funny, or number two, it's a laughter of guilt. Right? So when people laugh at things, certain things, you know it's guilt. What is the guilt? I know I should have a budget, but I don't. Yes? Yeah. Okay. Now if you have a budget, you might realize at the end of the budget that you spent 10 times more on coffee for that month than you thought you did. Right? So the budget will make you, oh, because look, a budget is historical, right? Budgets are good and you should have them, but you should, more importantly, have a financial forecast, especially if you're an adult, right? But that's a different topic. So, in the same way, you should monitor your time. Not all the time necessarily, but at least some of the time, so that you can know how you're spending your time, right? So, and there's apps for everything. So, you know, do some homework on that. So, quadrant 2. So look at the block, visualize the block. Quadrant 2 are things that are not urgent, but they are important. What do you think fits in this block? Give me an example. Something that is not urgent, but it's important to do. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure, but in the case of the exam, when the first quadrant is I write the exam tomorrow, and the second quadrant is I write it in 2 months.
Yes. So you study 2 months ahead of time. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I have to study, but if I not study today, nothing bad will really happen. But I have to start to study because it's very important.
Correct. So studying 2 months before an exam is not urgent, right? Because you still have 2 months. It's not urgent. But is it important? Yes. So then you should do it. Is the prayer in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2? Salah.
Depends on the time.
Depends on the time, yes. But on a from a fiqh point of view, yes, it's determined on the time. But on a human point of view, it's quadrant 2. Because if you don't pray, what happens? Nothing. Nothing. That's why we neglect to pray. Yeah? So Allah says in the Quran, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, and versions of that in other places in the Quran. Will you not use your intellect? Right? So we have to think about things. Why do we delay the prayer? Why do we neglect the prayer? Because if we don't pray, nothing happens. That's why. That's the only reason why. Because the prayer is very easy to do. Yeah? So the prayer is in quadrant 2. It's important, but it's not urgent. Right? So the adhan will go for the prayer here in a while. Like if you all go down to pray and I just sit here, what's going to happen to me? Nothing. Right? Allah doesn't punish us immediately. Like that's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Right? If He did, we'd be in trouble. Right? Because of our nature. So, reading. Is reading important? Yes. Is it urgent? No. Where's reading? Quadrant 2. Right? And on the reading, like I mentioned earlier, you ask people if they've read a book, they'll say yes. You ask them if they read it cover to cover, they'll say no. You know why people do that? Because it feels good to buy a book. Because you're making an effort, it feels good. But then you have to do the boring work and actually sit there for hours and read it, and that's what people don't want to do. Alright? That's why I find human behavior so interesting, because I want to know why people do things. I don't care what they do. That doesn't matter to me. I want to know why. So reading is quadrant 2. Alright? Anything of value is in quadrant 2. Anything of value is in quadrant 2. So, if you monitor your time across any week, so let's say from Monday you decide, okay, for 7 days I'm going to monitor my time, right? And it doesn't have to be precise to the second, right? You can do a sort of general monitoring. If you find that your week is slanted by time towards quadrant 1, you have a very big problem. Right? People laugh because it sounds funny, but it's actually a reality. In business, they have a term for it. It's called management by crisis. It's a term in business. Because all that person is doing is putting out fires. All he's doing is managing crises. Right? If most of your week is slanted to quadrant 1, you have a problem. If most of your week is slanted to quadrant 2, then you are a productive human being. So, will you have an externally imposed crisis imposed on you every single week of your life? No, you will not. Right? So that week or that month that you have no externally imposed crises imposed on you, then you should not be in quadrant 1 for that week or that month. Because what's left is self-imposed crises. And you shouldn't have any of those. Right? So, quadrant 1 should be managed and avoided as much as possible. And every minute of every day, as far as possible, you should be in quadrant 2. Yeah? Okay. Now, quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 requires a bit of thinking, right? People get sometimes confused about quadrant 3, so please pay attention. Quadrant 3 are things that are urgent but not important. But in this context, it means not important to you. Right? It might be important to others, but it's not important to you. Remember I said earlier, your priorities will not be the priorities of others. Right? So an example of this, you are trying to study 2 months before an exam. Right? Quadrant, which quadrant is that? 2. Right? You're trying to study, important. For an exam that's 2 months coming, not urgent, so it's a quadrant 2 activity. But every 5 minutes, someone is trying to call you. Right? Someone is trying to call you just to say hi, it's a friend, oh, how are you doing? You know, did you watch this movie yesterday? Da, 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 da. Now that call is a quadrant 3 activity. It's urgent because the phone's ringing. It wants to be answered right now. But is it important to you? No. Right? Not that you don't like your friend, but you're studying now. So it's about prioritization. So what's more important? So remember, in the hadith we mentioned earlier, the Prophet ﷺ would be in the house with his family. When he heard the adhan, he was gone. Right? He went to go and do the prayer. Why? Prioritization. Right? Giving everything is due. That's wisdom. So, quadrant 3 is things that are imposed on us by others based on their priorities. So I had a client recently who said to me, she and her colleague have lots to do. They have deadlines every day. But they never complete their deadlines because there's always someone coming in their office asking them for help. Show me how to do this in Excel. Show me how to do that. Show me how to do that. So she said, our work doesn't get done. Right? Those are quadrant 3 activities. People interrupting you when you need to do what you need to do. So how do you limit that? One word I'm looking for. How do you fix quadrant 3? It's a blunt way of saying it. What's a better way of saying the same thing? Boundaries. Boundaries. So that lady who keeps getting disturbed in her office, she should set boundaries and tell her colleagues, I will help you, but between 2 and 3 every day. Not before that, not after that. Because then other times I need to focus on my work. So you create boundaries. Right? So when you're studying, you put your phone on airplane mode. It's a boundary. I'm not available to talk right now. I'm studying now. It's a boundary. Right? Healthy boundaries are necessary. And not only in relation to time management, but in life. Healthy boundaries are necessary. And people, in my experience, do not have enough healthy boundaries. And you know what it leads to? Resentment. You know what resentment is? Resentment is dislike and disdain which creeps up, which builds slowly over time until you start to resent something or someone. But it builds up over a long period of time. So for example, there's a question, should a husband have the passcode for his wife's cell phone? I heard a yes. No. Because then there's no healthy boundary. There's a poet, Khalil Gibran, who you might have heard of. He said, and this was, I didn't read it in one of his books, it was taught to me by one of my shuyukh. Khalil Gibran said, let there be spaces in your togetherness. Let there be spaces in your togetherness. That's healthy boundaries. Right? If everything's open and free for all, There's no boundary. Right? Spouses shouldn't be doing things behind each other's backs. I'm not saying that. However, there should be boundaries. Yeah? Okay. So quadrant 4 is not urgent. Neither is it important. Please give me some examples. I know you have a long list. Yes?
Me?
Yes?
Not urgent, not important.
Give me an example.
Going to the hairdresser?
Why would you say that?
It's not urgent, and it's not too important unless your hair is grey.
I think it's very important. Seriously. I'm not even joking. How do you feel after going to the hairdresser?
Nice.
Don't you want to feel nice? Feeling nice is important.
But it's not something that you do on a regular basis.
Yeah, but it doesn't make it unimportant.
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah? So, there's this thing, amongst some Muslims, it's a misconception that we should not look after ourselves. It's a whole lot of nonsense. You should, especially women, right? So, there's a joke, I'm not sure if I'll get it right, to women it says, life is short, eat the cake, buy the shoes, get the haircut, right? Because those things will make you happy, right? So, that's not in quadrant 4. A woman going to the hairdresser is in quadrant 2, yeah? You're not going to the hairdresser every day, right? I'm not a woman, so I don't know this for sure, but I've heard that if a woman feels down and she's had a hard time in her life, getting a new haircut or a hairstyle makes her feel much better. Is that true, ladies? Yes, then it's a good thing. Right? So, like when I feel down, I buy a book. I'm boring. So, that makes me feel better. Right? Even though I have 100 books I haven't read, finished, that I need to read, but it feels good to buy new books, I'll go buy a new book. Right? So that's quadrant 2. Going to the hairdresser is quadrant 2. You have a question? Yes.
Wait, in which quadrant does it fit in cleaning the house? Because most of the time only it's cleaning the house.
Cleaning the house is quadrant 2. It's so let's say today is Saturday, right? And you have to clean your house today. It's important to clean the house, right? Because Islam is all about cleanliness, right? It's not urgent though, because if you don't clean your house today, you can clean it tomorrow. If you don't clean it tomorrow, you can clean it the next day, right? So there's another joke which says, I clean my house faster in the 10 minutes before someone is visiting than any other time. Quadrant 2, laughter. Very important to laugh, right? So cleaning the house is quadrant 2. However, be very careful with things like cleaning. I spoke to the brother during the break. Things like cleaning, right? Some people love it. Some people, it's their time to think. Like driving is my time to think. So I have a challenge when I'm with someone, when I'm driving. I will often neglect them because I'm thinking. I'm so used to thinking when I'm driving, right? Now cleaning is like that for some people. Cooking is like that for some people, right? But if it's not for you, don't feel obligated to do it, right? My advice is if there's something you do not like, you have to delegate it away. So, if you're a mother, delegate it to your children, right? It's cheap labor, eh? Or you delegate it to someone and pay them to clean, right? If you can't afford it, then life is such that you have to do it yourself, right? But what I'm saying is, if you have the option, you have to be doing, in 24 hours in a day, you have to be doing things that are best serving you, right? It's very important. And this little answer is part of a bigger sort of discussion about contentment and happiness and your purpose in life and all of those things, which I can't get into totally right now. Watching Netflix, which quadrant?
Maybe not. It can differ because you do need time to relax.
Brilliant. What's your name?
Hamid.
Hamid. Good answer. Watching Netflix is relative. So, many people, when they have a long day of work or studies and they come home, they need to unwind and what they call decompress, right? So, there might be a favorite show that you like, right? One episode, quadrant 2. 2 episodes, maybe quadrant 2. 3 episodes, you've just advanced to quadrant 4. Now you're wasting time. Yeah? It's relative. Right? Going with your family to the beach, quadrant 1 or quadrant 2? Quadrant 2. Most of the time. Right? But you could slip into quadrant 4 as well, where that's all you and your family do is just hang out at the beach. No, that's not the way. Right? You spend family time, you relax, you rejuvenate, but then you have things to do. Right? So, every moment of every day, ask yourself, which quadrant are you in? So, which quadrant are you in right now, this very second? One. Why 1?
Because I think if at the seminar, it can bring a lot of change to the rest of.
But why quadrant 1 though? Quadrant 1 is things that are urgent and important. Is it urgent to be here? No, it's not.
Why is it just? Because we're getting exams. It's urgent.
It's not urgent. You see, if you're not here, the way you differentiate is, if you are not here today, what will happen to you? Nothing. Nothing will happen to you. Same like the prayer. Is the prayer important? Yes. Is it urgent? No. Why? Because if I miss the prayer, nothing will happen to me.
And so we have a consequence.
So yes, there's a consequence with quadrant 1. Right? Quadrant 2 are things that are important but not urgent. So if you don't do it, poof, nothing's going to happen. So this being here today is quadrant 2. Right? So the way you evaluate your week is that most of your activity should be quadrant 2. So if you slip and you spend 2 hours in a week binge watching Netflix, which is quadrant 4, that's okay. Why? Because you're human. So don't beat yourself up. Yeah? But please write this down. Please raise your standards for yourself, not in relation to others, but for yourself. Raise your standards. Right? Who's happy with their standards of themselves right now? Right? None of us. So always have a commitment to raise your standards. However, do not ever try to be perfect, because you're not. Because if you try to be perfect and then you realize you're not, you're going to beat yourself up. Don't do that. But strive for excellence. Raise your standards. Did you have your hand up?
Well, I just wanted to ask, when you spoke about the second body, you said that importance is very much subjective. So it's what's important to you.
The third quadrant. The third quadrant, what I said was that It's not important. The quadrant is urgent and not important. But yeah, it's important. It's not important to you,
So
but it's important to that person.
So they said when we were watching Netflix, right?
Yes.
And the first two times you said it was quadrant 2 because it's a full decompression.
Yes,
And
correct.
then it shifts to quadrant 4.
Yes.
But what if it's still important to you?
It cannot be important to you to waste time.
So wasted time is not just the activity, but it's the absence of number.
No. Okay, let me explain this again. When you watch 1 or 2 episodes of Netflix, right? It's not urgent that you do it, but it's important because you're decompressing. So it's quadrant 2, right? But nobody needs 2 hours of binge watching Netflix to decompress. Nobody, right? No one is that tired. If you need that much decompression, you can have a nap, right? But at the 3rd or 4th episode of Netflix, you're now no more doing something that is important. You're doing something now that is not important and not urgent. That's why it's quadrant 4. It's a time waster. Right? So it shifts. Right? So sleeping is sleeping quadrant. What quadrant is sleeping in?
2.
Amount of sleeping.
Sleeping is quadrant 2 most of the time. How many hours of sleep do you need? Raise your hand.
6 hours.
6. Anyone else? Remember I spoke about the guilty law? That's the guilty law. Nobody, no human being, with all due respect, needs 10 hours of sleep. So they say you need 8. That's a generalization. You have to experiment. Right? So here's an experiment for you, and I'm very serious. One evening, go to sleep. But you have to struggle with this, right? It'll need some discipline. Go to sleep for only 4 hours. Right? And then you wake up and you start your day. Right? It'll probably be a hard day because you only had 4 hours of sleep. Right? And then the next night, sleep for 6 hours. You wake up, discipline, and start your day. The next night, 8 hours. Right? Then you'll know how many hours of sleep you need. So I've done this experiment. I need 6 to be normal throughout the day. Like right now, I don't have a tiniest bit of fatigue. I'm not tired at all. Right? I need 6 hours of sleep to feel this way. If I have 4 hours of sleep, I have a good day, but it's a bit of a struggle. Slight struggle. But I can run my day for 4 hours. Right? That's me though. Right? So you have to test for you because everyone's different, because our bodies are different, etc., etc. Right? So when I sleep for 4 hours, it's a quadrant 2 activity. When I sleep for 6 hours, it's a quadrant 2 activity. When I sleep for 7, 8, 9 hours, it becomes quadrant 4. It becomes a waste of time. Understand the difference? Right? But some of you might need 8 hours. You have to test it. Yes, sir.
And in the case where a family member is suddenly sick and calls me and I must go there, was it 1 or 3?
1. A family member calls you. Is it urgent? Yes. Is it important? Yes. Crisis? Yes. Quadrant 1.
But how we define technically what is important to me? Because we said what is important to me is regarding the prioritization.
Yes.
So of course the family member is
Yes.
emotionally very important to me.
Yes.
But he doesn't help me now to achieve my goals.
Okay. Good question. So now you are busy studying for your exam, right? or you are reading a book, or you're doing any other quadrant 2 activity, and you get a phone call or you get a text message saying a family member is sick and they need you there urgently, right? That becomes more important than everything else. Islamically even. Never mind the human aspect, your family and you love them. Islamically it becomes more important. You have to leave i'tikaf, right, in the masjid to go and help someone. That's the Islamic paradigm. Right? So prioritization is important, but prioritization is fluid. Yeah? So me teaching you here today is more important than any other thing I could be doing right now. However, if this building catches fire, that saving ourselves and putting out the fire becomes all of our highest priorities. All of us. So it shifts, it's fluid. Yes?
The deeper question behind that question I asked is, for me, how, what is the relation to the needs of other people? Because to...
The relation is high to the needs of other people. However, again, there has to be healthy boundaries. So for example, feeding people, right, is a good thing, right? But if you feed people the whole day, you're not going to have time for anything else. Yeah? So your priorities have to be managed in accordance to what you need to do and what you can do for others. So feeding people is quadrant 2 as well. It's not urgent, but it's important. Right? So you have to have a schedule. We'll talk about that in a minute in the other methodologies. You have to have a schedule. So for example, a sheikh was asked, how do I prevent from showing off, right? From having pride in my worship, that I'm doing worship for the sake of other people seeing me. So the sheikh said, have a schedule, have a system of what you do. So for example, when you're at home and you pray, and you do a certain dhikr after the prayer, then that's your habit, that's your routine. Then when you're in the masjid, you do the same routine, and whether people are looking at you or not, you can feel free that you're not doing it for pride because this is your routine. Yeah? So you have a schedule. So for feeding people, for doing good, you have a schedule. Right? So, should we give sadaqah? Yes. Should we have a schedule for giving sadaqah? Yes. Because then it's a system, it's what we do, it's how we do things. It prevents that you have guilt. Oh, I could have done that. Oh, I could have. No, this is my schedule. Yes, you can change the schedule, you can change the system, you can improve it, but you have a way of how you do things. Yeah? Okay, so I'm good with the quadrant theory now and what the quadrants are. Yeah? And look, this is personal to you. So your quadrant 2, it doesn't have to look the same like someone else's quadrant 2, right? You have to conceptualize this for your own life. Yes? Any question?
I tried this question before and I have a problem with categorizing. So for me, it's like everything could fit in. But for example, you would maybe separate between, maybe have a quadrant for family, friends, and everything, and another quadrant for university.
So you could break up quadrant 2 into segments, like quadrant 2 for family, but the bottom line is that they're all quadrant 2, right? So let's say you have a quadrant 2 activity like, so for example, meeting a friend for coffee is quadrant 2, right? Why? Because it's building relationships, right? It's keeping connected to people, right? But if that's all you do every day, all day, then that's quadrant 4, right? But it's about the intention, right? So I'll answer you in a second. So if you have conflicting things that you want to do on a day, but they're both in quadrant 2, what happens next is prioritization. Which one is more important? There's always something more important.
So then it goes to quadrant 1?
No. It stays in quadrant 2, but you have to schedule it for another time. It doesn't go to quadrant 1 unless it's a crisis. Yeah?
So we use this for prioritization?
Yes.
And then you have to have a schedule?
Yes, yes. You have to have a schedule. You have to have a schedule. Right? You have to have a schedule. Who has a schedule for reading? You do? When do you read?
Depends.
If it's in a schedule, it doesn't depend. So you have to be able to say, on a Monday, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. I read. That's a schedule, right? So you have to have a schedule for everything. Because otherwise, you're going to have, you have to live in quadrant 2. You have to live there, right? But there's a lot of quadrant 2 activities. Reading, spending time with your family, spending time with friends, studying, praying, doing dhikr, reading Quran. You can't do all of them at the same time, so you have to have a schedule. Yeah, and we'll talk about the schedule in a minute. Okay, so from page 12, there are some exercises which you should please do at home. Remember, the exercise is the boring work, and the boring work is where the fruits are. I want you to go to quadrant, talking too much, what quadrant? Page 15, please. So this is other methodologies for time management that we cannot go to in depth, but I will mention them briefly. We have talked about the first one a bit, which is scheduling. You must have a schedule, right? Now, Annie Dillard says the schedule depends from chaos and whim, right? And Imam Ghazali's quote, which we read earlier, says exactly the same thing. So, my advice to you is that you go home, maybe because it's Saturday, you have some things to do after the seminar, but before Monday, my advice to you is sit for 1 or 2 hours, not 1 or 2 minutes, 1 or 2 hours, and create a schedule for the coming week. Right? What are you going to be doing at what hour on what day in the coming week? Right? When you look at your schedule, you cannot schedule on a day-to-day basis. You have to do it on a week-by-week basis, because then you can look at your entire week and you can see, okay, have I scheduled all my priorities in my life for this week, right? Because you might find, looking at your schedule, you might find that if you add up all your study time in the week, you'll see, oh, I only have 3 hours of study time. And you might say, oh, that's too little. Exams are coming up. I need to double that. So I need to make 3 hours study time. I need to make it 6. So I need 3 extra hours. So where am I going to get it? So now you have to take some 3 hours from other places, right? Maybe you have to sacrifice some sleep. So if you're like me and you need 6 hours a day, maybe you need 5 hours every day that week, and then you'll have 7 extra hours. That's how you manage time, right? If you do not have a schedule week by week, you will always lag behind. You will always struggle looking for time. You will always feel like, I don't have enough time. Oh, there's too much things to do. No, you don't have a plan. You don't have a plan. My advice to you, read a book. This is not in the recommended reading, so you have to write this down. The Checklist Manifesto. Right? Excellent book written by Atul Gawande, medical doctor. Atul is A-T-U-L, Gawande. It's either G-U or G-A, and then W-A-N-D-E. Or you can just Google the name, the Checklist Manifesto. Right? And he talks about checklists, right? But what I found very interesting in there is when he talks about construction companies. If you think about a construction of a huge building, that is so intricate, right? There's so many people involved and so much has to be done. They have to work by a checklist and a schedule, otherwise the whole thing will never happen, right? If you want to organize your life on a higher level, read that book. right? It's not really about time management, that's why it's not included in the recommended reading here, but it's about organization, right? Very, very good book. So, everything, if I asked you what is important to you, right? And you say study, and I ask you what else is important, prayer, and I ask you what else is important, reading the Quran, and I ask you what else is important, and I go through the list, and then I take your list, your 10 things or 20 things, and I ask you, where's this on your schedule? If it's not on your schedule, then it's not going to happen and you're going to fall behind. So everything that is important to you has to be on your schedule. If it's not on your schedule, then it's not that important to you. If there's no time for it, because look, everyone has the same hours in a day, in a week, right? You can't do everything, so you're going to have to sacrifice some things for other things. Okay. Next is batching, right? Who uses email a lot? You? Anyone else? Use email a lot? How many times a day do you check email? 5? How about you? Do you have your email up on your phone? Yes? Do you have a notification when a new email comes in?
No, there's never space on my phone, so I go on my laptop.
And never what's on your phone?
Space on my phone.
Oh, okay. Poor phone. Okay. Do you have notifications?
For some things.
Okay. So, the problem with notifications is it's an interruption. What quadrant is an interruption? 3. Interruptions are quadrant 3, right? So with email, so you're busy talking to someone and an email comes in and you quickly check it, and then you're busy reading and then an email comes in and you quickly check it, right? So you end up going into your email. If you're a busy person, especially if you use email for work, you could be going in there 20 times a day. That's a waste of time. You have to batch your emails. No notifications, turn the notifications off, and batch your emails. So let's say 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning you check emails, and 4 to 5 in the afternoon you check emails. Right? You check them, you respond to them, you deal with them. That's called batching. So you batch similar activities together so that you're not bouncing in and out of that activity all the time. Yeah? That's batching. Very, very important. If you use Facebook to stay in touch with family, that's a good thing. Quadrant 2, a small percentage of the time, most of the time, go quadrant 4. Some people use Facebook for business. So if you're going to use it, use 1 slot in a day for your Facebook. Right? 1 slot a day. Right? So everything that is similar, you batch them. And that's how you will get more done. Right. So we spoke about batching, and then the next one is the 5-second rule. Okay, so the 5-second rule is a bias towards action. Right? During the break earlier on, I had a question about procrastination. Procrastination is the opposite of a bias towards action. Procrastination is sitting and thinking and wondering about doing something. Right? And it's fear-based. It stems from fear. Right? So a bias towards action is instinct. You do something, you take immediate action. And the 5-second rule says you actually have to physically count down. Right? So I have to do something, I know I have to do it. Before you can talk yourself out of it, you say to yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. By Allah, it works. I swear to you it works. I use it. And I've recommended it to clients, and they've come back to me and say it works. So in the first few pages in the recommended reading, this is one of the books that I recommend reading, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Right? very good book. The book explains the neuroscience behind this, right? Why it works and how it works, why 5 seconds is a key time frame that you will, if you extend beyond that, you will talk yourself out of it, you will overthink something, right? So the Quran says, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ, will you not use your intellect, right? Is thinking quadrant 1 or quadrant 2, or quadrant 3 or 4? Which quadrant is thinking? 2. It's quadrant 2. It's not urgent, but it's important. However, big, massive, however, most people overthink. Quadrant 4. People have chronic overthinking problems. Chronic. They spend their lives overthinking. No, that's not what the Quran is asking you to do. The Quran is saying think to the point that thinking is necessary. Then take action. Right? So, let me break this down for you in very simple terms. You get in your car, you're sitting in the car, and you know you have to go somewhere. Right? So, option 1 is you have to figure out the route on your own. Option 2 is you have Google Maps. Yeah? Don't use Apple Maps, it's a waste of time. So option 1, you have to figure the route out for yourself. So you sit in the car, you think, okay, I'm here now, I have to get there, it's this time of the day. What is the best likely route for me to drive? That is thinking, right? If you sit there and think, I wonder if a big truck will be in my way on the highway and if it will delay me by 10 minutes. That's overthinking. You have no clue if there's going to be a truck or not. Right? But to sit there and ponder and think, you'll sit there for an hour and you're still thinking about the trip. A trip that takes you 5 minutes. Right? So don't overthink. This is a big problem. People are constricted, their whole lives are constricted because of overthinking. Right? It's a chronic problem. Right? So don't do that. So the 5-second rule helps you prevent overthinking because it's a bias towards action. So try this today. I promise you it works. Right? If you have to do something, right? Before you can overthink it and talk yourself out of it, count down. Verbally. Right? Verbally, your tongue must move. Don't count down in your head. Right? Mentally. This is not a mental countdown. Right? Verbally count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You can use, I use the word go. You can use the word 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off. Because that's where Mel Robbins got it from the space shuttle launching. Right? Read the book. Very good book. Another side note for you guys. Who listens to audiobooks? Go home today and make tawbah. Make tawbah. Right? You have to make 1,000 istighfar for that. Audiobooks are the bomb. Right? There's an app called Audible. You know, Audible to hear. Audible, very easy word. And you download audiobooks. So the Stephen Covey book, 7 Habits book, it's on Audible, read by the author, Stephen Covey. Right? He passed on a few years ago, so he did the audiobook before that. Mel Robbins, 5-second rule, she reads the book herself on the audiobook. Right? All my top books I have in physical form and in audio. Right? So while you're driving, while you're walking, while you're at the gym, whatever, you can listen to audiobooks. So make tawbah that you don't have it yet, because it will change your learning. Right? So we studied Aqidat Tahawiyah with Sheikh Muhammad Ninawi. After the course, I went to go and buy the book and book and CD set by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. Right? And what I did was I popped the CD in my car, and it helped me memorize the Aqidah. Right? Because I'm driving and it's playing, it's repeating. Right? So it's a very useful way of learning. Right? So, like, this is blessings from Allah. Technology is blessings, so you have to use it. Right? Okay, getting things done is the next methodology. So David Allen wrote this book, right, called Getting Things Done. It became so popular that it became a phenomenon. So Getting Things Done, the acronym is GTD. I don't think he intended that, but it was so explosive that GTD became a thing in the world for productivity, right? So he has a 5-step methodology on how to get things done, right? So, and this is on Audible as well. So the thing is that, have you ever had a day in your life where you did a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day you felt like you accomplished nothing? Have you had such a day? Right? That's because you were caught up in busy work. That's called busy work. You're busy doing stuff, but you're getting nothing done. Right? And this book helps you to avoid that. So at the end of the day, you're getting a lot of stuff done. And that's what you want. You want to get a lot of stuff done. Right? So that's the next methodology, which we can't go into today, but please read the book. Okay. So Ramadan. Now Ramadan is finite. Who here, by show of hands, is ready for Ramadan? You ready? Who else is ready? Okay. So, are ever ready for Ramadan? Why? Because it needs preparation, and we always wait till the last minute. Yeah? Now, Ramadan, like most things in life, like life itself, is finite. It comes to an end, it has a limited time. Right? I don't know about you, but I've never witnessed Eid Day with satisfaction in my life. Not once. I've always witnessed Eid Day with regret. Because Ramadan's done. I can't do anymore. And I know I could have done more. Right? So, the objective is to change that for all of us. Right? So, Ramadan is finite, and these methodologies are batching. So you batch reading the Quran. Right? You schedule reading the Quran. Is reading the Quran quadrant? Which quadrant is it? 2. And I want to clarify something. I mentioned earlier that if you don't pray, there's no consequence. Right? Nothing happens. I'm only talking about this life. Obviously, there's a consequence in the next life if you don't pray, because you'll be asked, about the prayer. Right? So, obviously, we're not 5 years old here. Right? So, but let me rather explain it explicitly. That look, there are no consequences in this world, in this life. But there are consequences, and we know that. Right? So, so you have the verse there of fasting, which we all know, and very important is that the goal is not Ramadan. The goal is not fasting. What's the goal? What's the goal of Ramadan? Allah is the goal, yes. That's the best answer.
Doing good.
Doing good, yes, but according to the verse, my question is relating to the verse. What does the verse say? Taqwa. The goal is taqwa. Right? But taqwa, you don't buy taqwa at the store. Right? You earn taqwa. Right? So here's the thing about goal setting. So, do you know that people prepare for months and years to climb Mount Everest. Do you know that? And then they spend weeks at least, I think, climbing the mountain until they reach the top. So when day one of their preparation, so let's say they prepare for 6 months. So day one of the preparation, what are they preparing for? What is the goal? What is the goal that they are heading for? To reach the top of Mount Everest, yeah? We all get that? Yeah? Okay. So now they prepare for 6 months, and then it takes them weeks to get up there, and then they finally get up there, right? So my question to you is, if their goal is to get to the top, why didn't they just take a helicopter? Why go through six months of pain and weeks of walking up the cold snow mountain? Why not take a helicopter?
Isn't it the accomplishment?
It is an accomplishment, yes. But give me a better answer. That is correct. But what's the better answer?
It's not really about the outcome, it's the journey.
That's a very smart answer. So, I'll come back to Everest in a minute, but let's go back to Ramadan. So the goal is taqwa. But taqwa you cannot buy. And you cannot take a helicopter to taqwa either. So, you have to do certain things to get taqwa. Right? The same like climbing Mount Everest. The goal is to get to the top, but you don't want to take a helicopter. No one takes a helicopter. They take a helicopter only for rescue missions. Right? So, the goal is to get to the top, but you prepare well in advance to get to the top. Now here's something that few people talk about, right? Something that I teach. The objective of the goal, right? The actual goal, like taqwa in Ramadan and Mount Everest, that goal is not primary. That goal is secondary. That goal is secondary. What's more important than that is the person. Listen carefully. What is more important than the goal is the person you have to become in order to achieve that goal. That's more important. So to have taqwa, or to achieve the goal of taqwa, you have to pray on time. You have to wake up for Fajr. You have to fast. You have to give sadaqah. You have to pray Taraweeh. Yeah? So who you become is what is going to take you to that goal, and that's what's important. Yeah? So who do you have to become to climb? Like, can any of us here climb Mount Everest today? No, we can't. But in order to climb it, we have to go under preparation, and we will become different people. Our bodies will change, our habits will change, and then we can reach to the top, right? So, what you have to do for Ramadan is you have to apply the quadrant theory methodology and the other methodologies we mentioned to make sure that your Ramadan is filled with less regret at the end. Yeah? So, have you wasted time last Ramadan? Yes. Time, quadrant 4. Right? So now, this Ramadan, you take that time that you wasted last Ramadan and you shift it to quadrant 2. So you take away the wasted time, you push it into quadrant 2, and you read the Quran during that time. Reading the Quran during Ramadan is important, but it's not urgent, so it's quadrant 2. Yeah? So you live Ramadan in quadrant 2, and your whole life as well. Quadrant 2 is where you want to live. So at the end of Ramadan, if you look back at your Ramadan and you see that, oh, most of my Ramadan was in quadrant 4, that's where the failure is. Or if you look back and you say, oh, most of my Ramadan is in quadrant 2, then you know you've done your best Ramadan. And don't compare yourself. This is a general rule. Don't compare yourself ever to anyone else. Compare yourself to yourself. So today, compete with who you were yesterday. Right? Sayyidina Umar, he said, radiallahu anh, he said, if one day is not better than the next day, then I'm better off dead. Right? So you improve with yourself, you compete with yourself every day. Yeah? So here's a little exercise with 5 questions regarding Ramadan, starting on page 17. Right? Folks, this is the boring work. Please do this. If you have these pages still blank by Monday, this Monday coming, if it's still blank, then know that you maybe did not use your time correctly today, coming to the seminar. Because you have to complete something. It's a sunnah, when you start something, you have to complete it. So you've only started this by coming here, you have to complete it by doing all of these exercises. Yeah? Otherwise it's a waste. Yeah? This is the boring work. Always ask yourself, is this the boring work? Yes. Okay, I probably should do it. The boring work is what successful people do. Yeah? So these are questions regarding Ramadan. So it'll help you focus. So you need focus, you need discipline, and you need to use these methodologies. Right? There are other methodologies, right? But you have to use a plan, you have to use a system in order to achieve the results that you want. Yeah? So for example, number 2 says, what are you willing to sacrifice from your usual daily routine to make this Ramadan your best Ramadan ever? Because you only have 24 hours in the day. So maybe there's something that you do, even if it's not something like Netflix, but some other activity that you do that you can sacrifice. It's a small activity, but you can sacrifice it and do it and read more Quran in that time. So let's say it's 5 minutes a day that you usually spend on doing something that's not important. So steal that 5 minutes from that activity and recite Quran in that 5 minutes. Right? And that's how you build. You build, you build, you build, you build, you build. Right? So our Sheikh, for example, he reads the Quran the whole day. And he's driving in the car with him, he's reading the Quran. Like he doesn't have conversations. Like he doesn't ask, oh, this is a nice building. When was that building built? No, he's just reading the Quran. Because he's stealing time. That's all he's doing, he's stealing time. Right? There was a Sheikh from Jordan, and there was some people trying to, they had some animosity with each other, local people. And they went to have a meeting with the Sheikh and tell him, one guy saying he said this, and the other guy saying he said that. The Sheikh came out of the meeting very upset. Right? And he said, I could have read 2 juz of the Quran. Right? He was upset because you're stealing his Quran time. Right? So that is prioritization. Yeah? Then, so those exercises, boring work, please do them. Right? So it's written there, studying for exams is not the most exciting thing to do. Boring work. Boring, boring, boring. I hate doing this. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. When you tell yourself that, that's the things you should be doing. Yeah? That's the things you should be doing. Alright? So, if you look at things in context, right? So the Quran and Islam helps us to see beyond this life, right? So this life is a stepping stone, right, to the next world. In the same way, you look with a broad lens on your exams. It's a stepping stone, right? Yes, you might not want to do it, but you have to so you can get to the next step, right? So, question 1, how will you use quadrant theory to improve your studies, right? So let me ask that question right now. How will you use quadrant theory? One way that will improve your studies. Come. Afala ta'qilun, you do not use your intellect. Yes, sir.
Maybe batching more things and all that.
Yes.
So, rather than more.
So good. So that's batching. That's a methodology on its own though, but quadrant theory specifically. How will you use quadrant theory? Because that's a different methodology. Just checking the time. So how will you use quadrant theory? I can tell you. Should I? Yes, sir.
What if you listed all the things that you do in your daily life and put them into the quadrants and then figure out what is more important to you?
No. The quadrant is a tool. It's not used to determine what is more important. You have to decide that beforehand. Yeah? Alright? So you have to decide beforehand that Netflix 1 or 2 episodes is quadrant 2 is important. It's not urgent. But 3 episodes and 4 and 10 episodes is a waste of my time. So it goes in quadrant 4. So you don't put them all and then juggle them. No. You have to know what is urgent and what is important for yourself. Because it's personal. What's important to you is not important to me. Right? Yes, I saw a hand.
Like block the quadrant 3 things as you do with quadrant 1 and 2.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Like turning off your notifications on your phone.
Yes, yes. Turn off notifications on your phone. I used to turn them off. I turn them back on because I'm weak. But they're a bad idea. So WhatsApp I use a lot, right? Do you use WhatsApp a lot? So now what I do is I turn off notifications, but then my mind keeps wondering who's texting me. And that bothers me, then I turn the notifications back on. But that's weakness, that's not a good thing to do. So turn notifications off, yes, and then you'll save from quadrant 3, right? Another thing you can do, what else, how else can you use quadrant theory to improve studying for exams? Yes?
You would try to stay in the second quadrant all the time and avoid going into the first.
Perfect. 100%. Who else? Okay, so you would avoid binge watching Netflix because that's a quadrant 4 activity and you want to live in quadrant 2, right? So remember what I said earlier, you have to internalize these methodologies, right? If a week from today, right? I'm a bit tough, right? If a week from today, you still have to think which quadrant is quadrant 2, then you haven't internalized what you learned here today. You have to internalize it, you have to know it, you have to breathe it, right? So if I ask you, what is your name? You don't have to think, you know what your name is. If I ask you, what is your address? You don't have to think, you say, what's your address, right? But if you haven't internalized something, you won't know it like that. You have to know it in a sense, like the saying of Khalil Gibran, which I quoted you earlier. You remember what it is? Let there be spaces, plural. Right? So good for remembering, right? But things are specific. Let there be spaces, multiple, in your togetherness. So for example, in Islam, and I believe it's in the Quran, Allah speaks about dhulumat ila nur, from darknesses, plural, ila nur, into light, one. Right? So these things they matter, plural and singular, etc. But so a statement like that, so thank you for remembering, you have to internalize it. I don't have to look in the book what it is to tell you, right? You have to internalize it. So you have to internalize these quadrants. What is where? So that every day it's conscious. Oh, what am I doing now? Quadrant 2. So if you leave the seminar and you speak to your friends outside and you have a little chat, you have a coffee, that's quadrant 2. But if you're standing on the corner by 3 o'clock, quadrant 4, now you're wasting time. Yeah? So it switches. What quadrant you're in will switch depending on how long you've been doing that activity. Right? Okay. So, how will you use an effective schedule to ensure that you have enough time allocated to study all your subject effectively? Right? So that you cannot study for your exam and not take a shower every day. Yeah? So you have to clean yourself. You cannot study for your exams all day and night and not pray and not eat, etc. Right? So your schedule has to have time for studying and time for everything else. It has to have time for sleep. Right? If you're like me, 6 hours, maybe 8 hours, right? Whatever you need. And you have to do that experiment. It takes you 3 days. Right? It takes you 3 days, maybe 4 days if you want to test an extra time. But please do the experiment. If I see you in the street next week and I ask you how many hours of sleep do you need, you got to tell me. By experiment, not by guesswork. Right? We don't operate on guesswork. We experiment. Right? So, next question. What do you regret doing or not doing during your previous exams? Right? I regret scrolling Instagram for 2 hours every day when I could have studied that 2 hours. Yeah? Example. Right? So, think about, it's very good to be reflective. This question is a reflective question. Right? You're in this exam now, but reflect on the last exam. What did you do good? What did you do that's not so good? What do you regret about it? And then you know what to change for this exam. Yeah? Reflective questions are very, very important. Right? There's a grammatical problem in that number 4. How will you increase your discipline and decrease your laziness for the upcoming exams? Right? So how do you increase your discipline? With the 5-second rule. I swear to you it works. Right? If you need to do anything, you know you need to do it. But you know you're going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to say, oh, but it's cold. Oh, but it's tired. I'm tired. Oh, this. Before you can even get a chance to do that, you verbally say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and go and you move. Try it today. Like you don't need anything. You just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and you do something. Right? Try it. I promise you it'll work. Right? Okay. The last question. What are your 5 primary goals for this upcoming exam? You have to have goals. A lot of kids say, I'm studying for the exam, and I ask them, what's your goal? To pass. No, not good enough. You have to have a goal. Right? I want to get an A for this subject, or I want to do this, or I want to do that. You have to have a goal for your exam. I want to be the top student in the class. Yeah? So, it's not just about, life is not about getting by. Life is not about getting by. Many years ago, like 15 or so years ago, I heard a talk by Imam Siraj Wahaj from New York. Right? I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And he said, if you're in a school, you have to be the best Muslim there. If you're in a workplace, you have to be the best Muslim there. If you live in an apartment building, you have to be the best Muslim there. And like he mentioned a whole lot of things. And that made a big impact on me. Right? That it's not just about getting by, it's about doing your best. It's about really making maximum effort to do the best that you can. Not compared to anyone else, just compared to yourself and your potential. Because we all have different potentials which Allah has blessed us with. Right? Okay, so alhamdulillah, we finished all the notes. Please do the boring work. Yes? And if I see you in the street, I'm going to ask you, right? And I'll come look for you in the street. I'm just kidding. On the notes is my contact details. If you have any questions after today, you're most welcome to ask. I'm going to do this course because of the nature of the students that you are. This is time management with an Islamic context. But I'm going to be doing a 6 to 8 week, probably going to be 8 weeks online course on time management, but there'll be a general course not focused on the Islamic paradigm. Although I'll mention some Islamic things here and there, I'll mention Ghazali's statement in there, but it'll be for general public. So inshallah, I will let you know when that's going to launch. It'll be launching after Ramadan. But it'll go into depth. It'll be totally online, the course, and it'll go, and there'll be assignments every week, but it'll go into depth into all the methodologies, more deeper into quadrant theory and in depth into the others as well. So inshallah, we'll send you details on that.